The Quartering and the Declaratory Acts by Maxwell Tan, Dylan Tan, and Kaushik Tadepalli. The Quartering Act was part of a series of British laws passed in 1765 in an attempt to address the housing and supplies of British soldiers stationed in American colonies. Its primary context was Britain's need to maintain a standing army in the colonies after the French and Indian War, after which they wanted to secure its new territories and suppress any uprisings, especially from Native Americans. The effects of the Quartering Act directly contributed to the escalating tensions between Britain and the American colonies. It increased resentment toward the British government, helping to inspire revolutionary revolts. The act was seen as part of a broader theme of oppressive policies, which eventually ended in the American Revolution. It also created a really strong sense of unity among the colonies in opposition to British interference.
In response to the Quartering Act, the colonies refused to abide by it, causing England to implement the New York Restraining Act. The New York Restraining Act was part of the 5 Townshend Acts, and it suspended the New York Assembly until the colonists complied with the Quartering Act. In response, the colonists got scared of the consequences and gave in to the New York Restraining Act, eventually abiding by the Quartering Act.
After the major backlash from the colonies protesting the Stamp Act, Parliament passed the Declaratory Act of 1766, which repealed the Stamp Act, but also allowed the English crown to tax the colonies however they wanted to in the future. This act went against the unwritten long-standing policy of salutary neglect, causing the colonists to feel betrayed. This resulted in even more anger from the colonists and led to a more violent rebellion, like in the Sons of Liberty.
What a beautiful day of taxation without representation. Let's see what else we can tax the colonies this week.
Your Majesty, it will be a great idea to provide us, the British Army, some proper food and shelter in the colonies.
What? But the 7 Years' War ended 2 years ago. What could you possibly need the supplies for?
We must exercise our control over our vast empire. If our subjects are not fearful of us, then they are not loyal.
That's a good idea. Whatever taxes those good-for-nothing colonies, I'm for. Let's sign it right now. What shall we call it? How about the Quartering Act?
Alright.
Hello, who is it?
This is the Royal British Army. Due to my demands or face consequences, I demand 5 meals worth of food and 2 days of shelter.
What? You can't do this. I never agreed to this.
You have not the right or the representation in this decision. Here are the documents for reference. Now I demand my supplies.
What? The colonies are taxed enough as is with the Stamp Act. We can't bear any more of this.
Well, cry about it or face consequences.
I will never let you into my home.
Your Majesty, the colonists in New York are refusing to abide by the Quartering Act.
What? Who do they think they are? You must suspend the legislature at once and get this under control.
Yes, sir. We'll suspend the New York Assembly until they start listening to us.
Rah! The colonists will never agree to these acts.
Nah, this ain't worth it. It's easier to repeal the Stamp Acts than to try and enforce it on these plebeians.
Really? But we shouldn't lay down to the demands of those ungrateful colonists.
It will cost too much to enforce these acts. Our efforts to recover from the 7 Years' War will be nullified.
Well, if you're gonna repeal it, at least add a part that lets us tax them however you want in the future.
Alright then.
Bro, did you see what happened yesterday? The British were forced to repeal the Stamp Act because of the work we did in the streets the other day.
Nah, they scammed us. They repealed the Stamp Act, but they also passed the Declaratory Act, which allows King George to tax us whenever he wants to. This is turning into a dictatorship.
What? That sucks. Let's continue to rebel.
I agree.